Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Aqibatun lil Mustaqim. Wala ifrana ila ala dalimeen. Muhammadan wa huwa Sayyidina Makbubana. Inhu kana Sayyid Mursaleen. Salawatu Rabbi Taslimatihi alayhi. Hanan salim bikum ikwanina wa ikwanina fi din. My dear brothers and sisters, this is the second part of the establishment of salat in the house. And we're in a critical time of the establishment of the salat house. As I talked about last week, establishing salat in a house has many variances to it. It's just not putting the rug down on the floor and just make your prayer. There's a lot of things added to it, especially for the Muslim and the Muslimah. And we covered some of those areas last week. And now we're at a point where we have to ask the question. We establish the salat inside the house. Is what degrees, what do we want from that establishment? And how much reward do we want in the establishment of the salat in the house? And we have to ask each one of us who is established, every Muslim man in particular, and his wife, how they want to be regarded as in the hereafter. And this is why, again, the establishment of the salat period is an important factor, because this is one of the sure ways to get into Jannah, bi'ithnillah, is by the salat. This is why great importance is put on it, and that's why when you see the babs inside the hadiths and so forth and so on, and what you read in the Quran, there's a great emphasis put on it, because this particular pillar is a powerful pillar, and it's not hard to do, and it's not it's not taxing. It's not something like exercising where you go to a weight room to lift a lot of weights where you can get injured from it. Here, the salat is so gentle that it cannot harm you, but it has tremendous health benefits. So this is kind of like where we at, and we have to reestablish this concept among our brothers and sisters everywhere in the Ummah Muslimah, the Muslim community. So let me give you my felicitations properly to my brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi katu lil ikwani wa akhwati fi din. Assalamu ala mani tabahuda lil ikwani wa akhwati fi Africa wa Europa wa America, Caribbean wa Asia wa kulli makan. Okay, brothers and sisters, let's get into it now. We talk about, many times you hear many scholars, imams, students of knowledge talk about the madhab, the four great madhabs, and how you will see and read, they say that you must at least have and adopt one in order to get to that shortcut to the sunnah. Well, here is why they make importance, because today what I'm going to talk about, the salat that's not the fard, meaning the 5 daily, but the other ones. And the madhabs, each four, have some different variances to that. This is why it's important that you adopt one of the four. But in modern times today, since we have so much technology, can you mix them? You like some parts of this from the Hanafi and the Hanbali, you like some of that, and you like some for Shafi'i, you like some for Maliki, and so forth. Can you mix that? These are good questions that the scholars are pondering and today, and you have variances of answers to that. And so there's a mixed review as regard to that, because we in modern times, we have all this technology. Suddenly you read something from Imam Shafi rahimahullah, and then you say, okay, well, I like this, but then you also like something in Maliki as well. So can you adopt from both camps. See, this is where we have contention. But here we talk about the madhab arba al-dima, the four great madhabs: Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali, and Hanafi. They differ as to, now what we're going to talk about is the Sunnah Rawatib. These are the salats that are offered outside of the 5 daily prayers, the Sunnah prayers. And we'll talk about those today. You add these to your repertoire, even in the establishment of the inside the house. And these are a great contention. You can read a lot about that. The scholars, students, always talk great lengths about the Sunnah prayers. And so we look at subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided the Muslim a choice. Now, this is important, my dear brothers, in this instant, and for my sisters as well, but more so for the brothers since he's the head of the household. Subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided the Muslim a choice concerning the hereafter. The salat is the forefront of this choice. The Muslims should understand the different echelons in the hereafter. And this is something that is important to know, because what do you want? And so you, as the man of the house, you have to establish and you have to educate your family on what they want. And what echelon? How do you want? Do you want the minimum? You want to enter the Jannah in the minimum echelon, or you want the upper echelon? And so this is now we get into the really meat and potatoes of the establishment of the salat in the house. The authentic hadith concerning the number of salats the Muslim is required to complete during the day. And this is our Prophet ﷺ gave us the answer. What happened here, there was a person, a Arabi, who came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him about Islam. And he wanted to know what Islam was. He wanted to explain to him. And in the Prophet ﷺ, he explained it. And he asked about this salat. He said, what is required of you is 5 daily prayers. See, now this is the minimum that is required. And now we're talking about the others. And so again, if you're doing your 5 daily salat, you are covered under the Sharia, under the Sunnah and under the Sharia. No one can fault you for that. No one can say you were wrong. No one can say that you're making bid'ah. You are going according to what the Prophet ﷺ has said. So that's important. The Muslim should advise and counsel his family when establishing salat in the house concerning this hadith, because he has especially his impressionable teenage children, his sons and his daughters. He has to ask them the question, what do they want? If they want the higher reward, or they just want they want the minimum reward. They have to ask that question. And you got to be always mindful of something, brothers and sisters. I don't care what we do or what we say. We're not guaranteed anything without the permission and the mercy of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He is going to decide who goes to Jannah or not. But we've been getting guides from our Prophet ﷺ how we can be chosen to be among them by doing certain things in this dunya. So, but that doesn't mean that we are destined to go to Jannah, because it all depends on what what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala regards. But these are certain byproducts that we need to have and implement in order to be considered for that. And this is what we're talking about here now. Establishing salat in the house or inside the masjid takes on significance. Do you want the minimum echelon of the hereafter, or the medium echelon of the hereafter, or the upper echelon of the hereafter? This is the question that each one of us have to ask. The father in the house, the mother inside, the Muslim and the Muslimah, they have to each ask each other, what do they want? And then their children as well, especially their teenage and older children, they can ask us, they can discern. When you're 5, 6 years old, they cannot discern. But they're 15, 12, 13, 14 on up, they should be able to discern what we're talking about here. During the required 5 daily slots, earn us with Subhanahu permission the minimum echelon. If you do the 5, as I said, no one can fault you. No one can say that you are a weak Muslim, or no one can say that you are that you're out of you're making innovations or anything like that. To achieve the minimum echelon by doing voluntary prayers of the Sunnah or the Rawatib. Remember, we talked about that. This is the new term for you here, the Sunnah prayers and so forth, doing the voluntary Sunnah prayers. Now, if you start doing those along with your 5 daily, and now the voluntary Sunnah prayers, you just moved up an echelon to the medium, okay, medium. To achieve the upper echelon of hereafter, you have to be doing the 5 daily prayers, the Rawatib or the Sunnah prayers, and then adding the night prayers with the Tahajjud. And these are your guides to Jannah. So again, it's self-explanatory. Now you want to even move higher up. You add the night prayer, and you heard me talk about this many times. And you start off slow, brothers and sisters, who have not done this. And again, you make the niyyah to do this. And you start off slow. 20 minutes before the salat al-fajr, before the adhan, you begin to do maybe 1 or 2 rak'ats. And then you finish with your third rak'ah, which is your witr, and then you close it out. And then the next morning, maybe you go 25 minutes before. You see, you build up. And you have an internal clock. When you start to do this for years, believe me, you'll have an internal clock. You will know when to get up, and you will get up and so forth. And this is one of the hardest prayers because in the wintertime, everything is cold, especially the man. He has to get up. He should get up and do what he has to do, maybe put warm drinks for the family, turn on the heater inside the house, make sure everything is comfortable, make sure that his wife has her blankets and maybe your children too, because you're going to go to the masjid for Salat al-Fajr. So you make sure the family has everything to keep themselves warm. So these are the guides to the echelons. And these, now remember, there's seven heavens. Okay, we set 7 echelons essentially. And so we don't know where these fit, but we do know each one has this category. We do not know if you do all the slots, if we're talking about the 4th or the 5th echelon. We do not know. We don't know which one. This is something that none of us have an answer to, but at least we do it and we try to accomplish it so that way we can get reward for it. And we have the right niyyah to accomplish it. When establishing and reestablishing prayer in the house, he should advise, educate, leave the choice to each family member. We cannot force or put undue pressure on the family, the brothers in particular, and the sisters. You can't put pressure on one or the other, or your teenage children that they have to do Sunnah prayers. It's not required. This will give you, explain to them the reward that you get for it. But if your son who's 18, he's in the house, or you have 2 daughters that are 15 and 16, and you have, say, 4 children that are in the teenage age, and they say, Dad, we don't have time, we don't want to do that, but we will do the 5 daily prayers. You can only encourage them. You cannot put pressure and you cannot scold them. You can just say, look, and I'll give you something, a remedy to about this later on, inshallah. But you educate them to say, look, Muhammad, my son, this is the best choice for you if you can do this. If he says, no, Dad, I cannot do it at this time, it's up to him. He's had a choice. And this is important for especially the man in the house to establish the salat, but to give the conditions and don't put undue pressure on them. Okay, you can't do that. As long as each member executes the 5 daily prayers, he is fine under both the Sharia and the Sunnah. He is. There's nothing you cannot go after them for that. You can't put punishment on them. So do not, now, my brothers in particular, so do not put tyrannical and punitive measures upon the children and the family in this regard. If they decide they don't want to do the sunnah prayers, you let it go, and you only encourage them, bring it up now and then, but never pressure them into it. Give them the condition, saying, Muhammad, my son, if you do this, you can achieve that. And maybe later on he may do it. But again, none of us know when or number we called and that we'll pass on. And this is why we should do as much as we can. But they're still are, they're teenagers, they're still not mature yet. So they make their decisions. And we don't know how Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is going to regard them. But anyway, you as the man of the house and the wife, don't put tyrannical methods of punitive actions and measures on the children because they don't want to do the sunnah prayers. Okay, please don't do that. Now, if one member of the family completes the 5 daily prayers and not the sunnah prayers, or he or she shouldn't be sanctioned, or another completes both the fard and sunnah but not the night prayers. Now, see, given variances, we have Muhammad, your son, said, "Okay, Dad, I heard you. I'm gonna start doing the sunnah prayers, but I can't get up to do the tahajjud, the night prayers at night." And maybe your daughter, Amina, she says, "Dad, I'm gonna start doing the sunnah prayers, but I cannot get up either for the 1 hour before Fajr to do the tahajjud." Okay, you let it go. You only advise them, and that's it. Don't force them. Don't make it a burden, because then you may put a block and shaitan enter there and they won't do it. So at this time, you say, okay, you tell them the rewards, and maybe they see you and the wife, moms and pops, doing it. It may encourage them without you even saying anything. They start to do it. So you just don't know. But anyway, I'm giving you this advice inside the house, and in time they just might come around. And maybe Muhammad, your son, he might have just did the 5 daily, and suddenly now he's got a little older now. He saw you and he saw moms and pops doing sunnah prayers and so forth and so on. We'll get into the sunnah prayers here in a second or so, inshallah. And so he is encouraged, and he says, okay, you know what? I see moms and pops doing it. I think I'm going to do the same thing. But he can't do tahajjud. So let them build, because it's a building process. There's no leveling sections of any of the respective cases. You can encourage the family to achieve the greatest reward by doing all the sunnah and fard prayers, but do it kindly. Again, I can't stress that. I keep harping about that because I want the brothers in the house, you guys be kind to your family and so forth and so on. And you tell them and counsel them in kindness and whatnot. If they do the 5 daily prayers and whatnot, and again, maybe they may come around and so forth and so on to do these sunnah prayers. But you only pray for them that they will do it, and you hope that they will do it. But this is why it's important for moms and pops in the house to make sure they're doing it, because you can't go after the children when you're not doing it yourself. So if you tell Muhammad and you tell your daughter Amina about these prayers, but you're not doing them, I think you're going to lose your case. So what are these rawatib, the sunnah prayers? 2 kinds. The general voluntary prayers. Such prayers do not have any limits. A Muslim can offer as many as he wishes, but avoid doing it in restricted periods. These dislikable times are the morning after until sunrise, and when the sun is set the meridian until it moves slightly to the west, and after Asr prayer until sunset. So again, that's self-explanatory. We have I give you an example. You finished your salat al-fajr, and now we have conditions. I really didn't want to get into that. That's deeper issues. You read the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ and some of the companions, they were out on a journey, and Bilal was ordered to wake up everybody for Fajr. He fell asleep, and so they missed the time for Frederick prayer, and they completed it. You can do that. If you do happen to sleep through it, you can complete it even though you have passed the time and you're okay. And there's other issues about this as well, but that's for another class. I didn't want to get deep into it. I want just to establish, to get us establishing that salat in the house and talk about the sunnah prayers and so forth and so on. Not to all the issues about what happens with our daughters, what happens, when their cycles and all that, and then what if this happens after their cycle? I don't want to get into that. Or if you miss the salat, what can you do, and so forth and so on. How about the sunnah prayers? Can you make those sunnah prayers up as well? See, all these issues for another day. But right now we're talking about just the fundamental parts of getting up, making Fajr prayer, and then so forth. And here's the restricted times here. We have Zawal is the meridian. Zawal is approximately 3, according to many scholars, student knowledge, between 3 to 10 minutes before Salat al-Dhuhr. And you are not to pray in those restricted times. Okay, you should not pray. So now you have that. So here we have the second type is the number of ratib prayers goes according to the madhabs. Now, here we'll talk about Dhuhr, because Dhuhr is a big contention. Shafi and Hanbali say 10 is the maximum. 10 maximum, meaning that you were doing two before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr. Then you're doing 2 after 2 before Maghrib and 2 after. Okay, that's 8. And then you're doing, you do 2 after Maghrib, and then you do 2 before Isha, Salat Isha, and then the 2 after, which is 10. Hanafi and the Maliki madhabs respectively say 12. So they say 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr. Then they say you can do the 2 after or more. Now Maliki say you can do more if you want after. You can do quite a few more. I'll get more into specifics. And then you do your 2 after, and you 2 4 and then 2 after, and then I'll make that up to 12. The Maliki madhab say there's no limits, meaning if you want salat to Dhuhr, okay, there's a minimum of 8 you can complete if you want. Now this is what they say, minimum 8 before Dhuhr. But all the scholars contend that you have to do at least a minimum before Dhuhr in order for it to count. At least the minimum is 2, but the maximum number is 8. Now after the salat, if you want to do more under Maliki, you can. There's no penalty against you. So this is why I said, brothers and sisters, now this is the time you have to look at which madhab. You want Maliki, or you want Hanbali, you want Shafi'i? See, which one do you want? You have to ask the question, because they differ as far as the sunnah prayers. And I'm going to give you some others too that will give you great rewards. The Doha prayer, which commences after sunrise. Now, here we have the exception. Now we see we're talking about something. The Fard prayers, you have a restriction. But these other prayers, like the Doha, which I do every single day, and I try to do it a little bit after, because I'll forget. I wait 3 or 4 hours. My wife is the exact opposite of me. She can do it 3, 4, 5 hours between, remember, the sunrise and Zawal, 3 to 10 minutes before the Salat al-Dhuhr. She's good at that. With me, I start doing this, I start doing it, I'll forget. So I like to do it very early after sunrise. I like to complete it and get it over with, so that way I don't get lazy or I forget, because things happen. 3 or 4 hours later, I'm doing this, I'm studying that, or I'm trying to do this, and I'll forget. And I don't like to forget my Doha. This is extra prayers, brothers and sisters, that add to your books. And it also makes you more devout and more of a real true believer of the religion. And so this is one prayer that is absolutely, you should incorporate. The family should incorporate that too. Then the one too that is very famous, that is very interesting. If you remember the hadith, which is striking, the Prophet ﷺ said that he heard footsteps above him in Jannah. And he didn't know who this person was. So he went and found Bilal, who visited the restroom, and he made his wudu. He then went to make 2 rakats. And he asked Bilal, and Bilal explained to him what he was doing, because he found out it was Bilal who was doing this. It was Bilal who he saw above him. And Bilal explained that after he visits the restroom, after he makes a wudu, he makes 2 rakats. Tashahhud and then the taslim. So this is a very beautiful one. I try to do it many times, I forget. But this is a lot of salats, extra salats during the day. For you, you visit the restaurant, you make your wudu, then you come out and do 2 rakats. Sometimes it's not feasible, especially in my time. It's very difficult. But this is for the really strong, devout believers. The contention among the madhabs is Zohar prayer. Zohar prayer is the contention, as we talked about earlier. Some say you can do 2 and then 2 after. Some say you do 4 and then you do 2 after the Zohar. And anytime we have a dispute, we have to ask, we go back to the original sources, which is the Prophet himself, alayhi salatu wasalam. And what did he do? This is why the scholars contend that the 4 madhabs, all of them essentially are correct. Some may be more correct than the others, but if you follow the Hanafi, you cannot go wrong as far as the Sunnah prayers. If you follow the Shafi'i or the Maliki, the Hanbali, all of them, you're okay if you follow one of these madhab for your Sunnah prayers. There's nothing wrong. They're all okay. Some may be more right than the others, according to the Prophet ﷺ, but they're covered and you're okay. Now, the 10 rakats, according to Shafi'i and Maliki, rahimahullah jami'an, schools of jurisprudence, the 2 rakats before Dhuhr and the 2 rakats after. Here we go. This we talk about. Now, this Shafi'i and Hanbali, this is, again, the 2 Dhuhr, because this is the contention among the scholars. They are different between the madhabs. The Shafi'i and Hanbali, they say 2 before and 2 after, 2 rakats after Maghrib, 2 rakats after Isha. This constitutes 10. If you want to do that, you can. You're still covered. According to the Hanafi school of jurisprudence, the Sunnah are 12 rakats, 4 rakats after the Adhan and before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr. These prayers are offered in the home or the masjid. Now, I like to, if I can, but it's very difficult because I live a distance from the masjid and I won't cover the time. And the fard prayers, remember, it always takes precedent over the Sunnah prayers because they're voluntary. You don't have to do them. So I try to complete what I can inside the house and then go on, because you get more reward for doing the Sunnah prayers inside your house, establishing again that salat inside the house, and then go off to the masjid. But to be honest, I cannot, because I live too far away and to do that. So now Fajr prayer, I can get away with this, to do the 2 rakats before, after the Adhan is sounded, you do the 2 rakats. I can do that because we're going between 20 to 23 minutes, and it should be 20 minutes, should be the limit. But this particular masjid is 23 minutes after they start, because people are, driving in and so forth and so on, come from other areas, because it's in an open area where I live now, and so there's a little bit more difficulty and more space to cover. So they give it a little bit more time for people to come. So I can do my 2 rakats here, and then I can go on to the masjid to make the fard prayer, which is the Sunnah prayer. I mean, is the salat of Fajr. The 2 rakats after the van of Maghrib prayer, and 2 after it, 2 before Isha, 2 after it. All of this is okay. Now, Maliki differed. If you want after salat to maghrib, if you want to do 6, you can. If you want to do 8, you can. According to them, you can do as many as you want. See, so again, the madhabs are a little different. But if you do just these here, according to this, the madhab that you choose, you're okay, you're covered. The Maliki school of jurisprudence state that there's no limit before Dhuhr. Remember, I said this again. If you want to do 6, but you can do, all scholars all concur, you can do a maximum of 8. Most of us do 4. I do 4, but sometimes I do 2, according to the time and so forth and so on. I do 4 or 2 before Dhuhr, and I do 2 after Dhuhr. And then here, the 2 after Maghrib, the 2 before Isha, and no limit after. Now, this is the other contention. Here, the Maliki school of thought says after Isha prayer, if you want to do 6, you can. If you want, you're not limited to do just 2 only. The Sunnah, you can do 2, but you can also offer more. So all of this is approved, brothers and sisters. If you decide to follow either one of the 4, you are covered. You're okay. There's no harm to you. You're not making any innovations. You're not innovating, and you're not in trouble with Subhanahu wa Ta'ala either. You're not. So you're okay. All schools concur. There is a minimum of 2 rakats before Dhuhr and differ on witr. Now, I don't want to get deep into that either, because that's another issue, but I don't want to really get into that. The more correct view about the witr is what the Prophet ﷺ comes after even rakats. I prefer this, and this seemed to be more of the ruling according to the Prophet ﷺ. What I mean by the even number rakats. Okay, maybe say let's look at tahajjud. Okay, at nighttime prayer, you do 2. Okay, tashahhud, and then your taslim. Okay, and then you say okay, I think I'm gonna do 4. Then you do 2 more rakats, which you total to 4. You do your tashahhud, then your taslim. Right now, your 5th one, you make your witr. You do your 5th prayer, and then you conclude it with again with the shahad, and then with your witr, and then you're okay. This is what they're talking about, that because you have to. This is the sunnah. You must have that. If you do 2 rakats after Isha prayer, and then you get up for your tahajjud prayer, so you've already done 2. See, you've done 2 already for your night prayers. You've done 2, and then say you decide you want to do we'll say 2 more, for instance. Okay, now that'd be 4 from the 2 after Salat to Isha, and then you did 2 at 3 o'clock, 2 hours say before, or say an hour before the adhan. You got up and did 2 more. Now you must conclude your night prayer with the witr, which is 1, and you do your prayer, and then you tashahhud, and then your witr, and you're covered. These are all technical issues, and I don't want to bore anybody out, but this is our religion, and you have to be made aware of this. And again, I'm not trying to talk anybody down or anything like this. I'm only offering fundamentals because there's people who do not know. And I know there's people who do not know. They may be confused, and they may be too ashamed and embarrassed to even admit that. So we have to we have to look at everybody's angle on this. And so that's why I try to I'm doing this in order to encourage those who may not know, or maybe they were not sure, and so forth and so on. So this is what my intention. I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence here at all. The brothers who do know this, I'm not trying to insult you at all. But this is for those who may not know this information. The meaning here, you perform 2 rakats or even numbered rakats, and then finish with 1 rakat as your witr. As I said before, it's as easy. Okay, we get up for tahajjud, and say you did your 2 after Isha. Say you decide, you know what, today I'm going to. Before I say this, let me preface this. The Prophet ﷺ, he did about 11. Sometimes he did 9. Sometimes he did 7. Sometimes he did 5. You see, the rule is you can do 1. at the minimum. Maybe you woke up late. Okay, I give you an example of that. This happened to me before. Or I woke up late. It's only 15, 20 minutes before the event. I wake up. I say, oh man, I missed, my tahajjud. So I'll get up and do one. The minimum, do one, and and then that'll be it. That'll close out because you done three. Remember, you did two already night prayers, which two already after Isha, right? So I get up 15 minutes before. I don't have time to do the others. I make wudu and so forth and so on. Now and get ready to go to the masjid. So I do one. I did my three with witr because you finish in an odd number, and this is the correct way. You cannot finish on an even number. You cannot, brothers and sisters. You cannot. You must finish on the odd number, which is your witr. So again, I got up only 15 minutes before. I'm late. I don't have time. I can't complete before the adhan. Maybe 2 or 3 more rakats. I can't. 4 rakats. I cannot. So I've already completed 2 after Isha. So now I do only one to complete the night prayer, which is be my witr, and I'm covered. All schools of jurisprudence all concur there's a minimum of 2 prayers offered at the door, like I've been talking about. The minimum sunnah prayers are 2. That's the minimum before door. The minimum is only 2. I do 2 sometimes. If I'm in a hurry, if there's something going on, I'll do 2. But most of the time I do 4. And that's the greatest reward. The Muslim armed with this information can present a good picture to the family. The Muslim man, the brother of the house, he have all this information. He then bring the information to his family to make good, healthy choices and without compulsion. And however, now here's where you be punitive, brothers in the house. However, punitive remedies can be proffered in case where family members are derelict or negligent in their 5 daily prayers. Now, if Muhammad and your daughter Amina are not doing now you can make your punitive damage, on their dereliction and neglect of those prayers. Say Muhammad is only doing 2 prayers and you catch him at this. Now you can be more forceful, because in order for you to keep up as a Muslim, you must do the 5 daily prayers. And let nobody fool anybody with the modern Muslims today will tell you you don't need to do, you can just do 1 per week, or you only need to pray on Friday, or you only need to pray in Ramadan. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation about the Muslims now and their salat. A lot of the enemy is passing a lot of bad information. Your son may come and say, Dad, you know what? The brothers told me at school, you're wrong. I don't have to do any salat except 1 salat. I can do salat to Fajr, or if I want to do salat to Isha, I'm okay for the rest of the day. You see what I mean? These things can happen. That's why, brother, you have to be educated and you have to know the deen in order to correct your son. And when they're in the derelict and negligent as far as their 5 daily prayers, now you and your wife can put down the hammer to force them to do that. So the Muslim must be on guard because this happens, brothers and sisters. The changing habits of family members. The moms and pops have to look at the children and see what's going on with my daughters. I see something's happening. I think they're not praying. And they're not, in their cycle. I think that my daughter's not praying. And you go and check it out. And you see different habits about them. You don't hear the water running when you used to hear the water running, you know that they're making wudu to make their prayer. See? But now suddenly you don't hear it. You hear the TV still going on, even at the time of the adhan when they used to turn the TV off. See, these are changes that may catch your eye to tell you something's not right with your daughters or your son Muhammad. You know him. You see how he is. You should see him walking fast to the bathroom. He's coming back out. You see him hustling to put on a tobe, a robe or something like that for his salat. See, and suddenly you see his door closed. There's no movement. He didn't go to the bathroom to make wudu. The adhan has already sounded. There's nothing coming from his room. These are the changes that you should look for your son to see what's happening with him. And so monitor them, brothers and sisters, moms and pops in the house. You guys got to monitor that. If you see these changes, you got to get on it, because of the 5 daily prayers, that's something you must enforce. This is where the punitive actions and measures can be taken on the kids, and even on the wife or the husband if they don't do that. But leave the door open for them to discuss Now, you're punitive. Okay, if your son Muhammad comes in and says, you know what, we were told you don't have to do Asr and you don't have to do Maghrib prayer, I can go ahead and do Isha. Okay, you tear into him, but you have to do it in such a way you leave the door open, ask him, Muhammad, where'd you get this information from? So that way he'll talk to you. If you close the door by putting down the hammer on him too early, he may have be only following what someone has told him. Or maybe he saw this on YouTube, because there's some crazy stuff on YouTube today. And maybe he's following something. So you say, Muhammad, why you didn't pray Asr and Maghrib? You know, and you ask him, and then maybe he'll get the answer to you. Then you can correct him. So be ready to provide them with the proofs, because if your son come back adamant, he said, I was told, he said, son, can you give me the proofs on what your friends told you at school? But you have the proofs ready by bringing out the hadiths, the book of salat, establishing salat. We have Ibn Majah, I mean, you know, Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Dawood. There's many you can turn to get the right answers. And then you provide it to your son to show that the 5 daily prayers are required as a Muslim. So these are some of the things that you have to be on guard about. Then Nabi alayhi salatu did 4 rak'ahs before Asr prayer. I'm gonna give you something too that I have been going back and forth about, because I admit I have some reservations about it, but I love it. I feel good when I do it. Many didn't know this, but the Prophet ﷺ did offer 4 rak'ahs before Asr. And then some, now we have good hadiths. We have you know, the former the caliphs, the Amir Mu'mineen of the Muslims, who talked about this issue when they saw the Prophet, Omar Wadhu and Ali, and both talked about what they saw with him, and they saw him offer 4, sometimes 2, but it's not a confirmed sunnah, meaning he did not do it every day. The others he did every day. You see what I mean? He did every day. Excuse me, my brothers and sisters, you hear the adhan in the background. Excuse me, I'm getting close to prayer for Salat al-Maghrib. And they know he did the others, but the Asr is a contention to a degree. If you offer them, you're not in dereliction, you're not innovating, because it is something, and it is a reward for it, because the Prophet ﷺ talked about it and he did it, but not all the time. So if you don't do it, you're okay. If you do it, you're still okay. You get the ajr for it. If you don't, you're not in dereliction or in negligent in your salats, or you're not. But if you decide to do it, you can. It's no harm to you, because there's proof to that. We do have the hadiths to show that that he did offer that. It's just that he didn't. He might have did it on a Monday. He didn't do it again until on a Thursday. See. So he leave it up to you. If you want to do them, you can. If you don't want to do them, you can. But there's great rewards in doing them. The sunnah prayers make up. This is why, brothers and sisters, we push the sunnah rawatib prayers, because this is where the Prophet ﷺ talks about something. These prayers that you are doing, the extra ones, they make up for your deficiencies in your fard prayers. This is important, brothers and sisters, why you should incorporate that. Because we all make mistakes. We're human beings. Here, what's going to happen is in the hereafter, they'll look and they'll see that I'm just saying, you have 50,000 deficiencies in your salat and your fard prayers. But you also did your sunnah prayers. They will account for your fard prayers. This is how beautiful our religion is. By incorporating those sunnah prayers, it's like an insurance. It's like a pension. It's like a pension plan. Like, you're working, you starting off working here, and they'll ask you, hey, you want to have a pension with the company? You say yes, because it's going to pay off for you in the long run, right? This is how the sunnah prayers are. It's like a pension plan. Because when you begin to stop here or something happens, you'll have your pension to fall back on, and because you put that extra money into it. This is here. You put that extra time in it to cover for your fard prayers that you might be deficient in. Because I'm going to tell you, all of us make mistakes. Things happen. when we make the far prayers, we forgot and we start to do something that's not right in the prayers and may have negated our prayer. We didn't know it, or we forgot about that. It happens. But you'll have your sunnah prayers that will help you to compensate for those mistakes that you made in your far prayers. That's how beautiful our religion is, brothers and sisters. So I went through this pretty fast as a reminder to help us. And you can think about your conditions in your house and what is best for you and your families. And my advice to you, brothers and sisters, is you should incorporate those sunnah prayers. You do all the extra prayers you can. But your teenage, impressionable children, you be careful on what you ask of them, because the sunnah prayers, you don't want them to begin to hate it or to think it's a burden, and they do it out of just to satisfy you. So don't put pressure on them. They do the 5, if they're good, Muhammad and Mamina are good at your 5 daily prayers, you support them in that. You praise them for that. But try to get them to incorporate slowly but gently your sunnah prayers, okay? And you go to your daughter, you see her getting ready, you say, sweetheart, why don't you do 2 rakats before her door? And just ask her. And maybe she may do it. And you say, and then she may build from that. So you have to, you and your wife, moms and pops in the house, you guys got to try to, to ease them to it. But if they say no to it, let them, okay, no problem, let them go, because they're doing their 5 daily prayers and they're doing beautifully in that regard. You don't want that to change. So just be kind and mindful for that, and so forth and so on. And try to get them to get to the sunnah prayers, but you must be the example first. If you're not doing these sunnah prayers, brothers and sisters, start to incorporate that and let your family see that. If you brother established a house, the salat in the house, say for instance, say during the time of the virus, and we were trapped, we couldn't leave to go out the house, and you can't pray in the masjid because the masjid is closed up. Okay, now it's a good opportunity to establish a salat inside the house. Or you live a distance away like me, you start to live a long distance away, and it's not different. It's difficult to get there. You can maybe use a car, but you think about the distances before. If you don't have a car, it's very difficult to go kilometers away. It's not easy, and especially the 5 daily prayers, very, very difficult. But here you establish the prayers, and to say now your family has saw you only compete, say, slut the door. But suddenly you offer 4 rakats for your before door, and the kids see that. This is a promotion. This is an invitation for them to do it too. And they may ask you, Dad, what are you doing? You explain to them and the reward for it. This is a start. This is how you do it. So if you're not doing this, Muslim, and Muslima, if you're not doing this, brother and sister, if you're not doing this, incorporate this. Slowly incorporate the sunnah prayers so they can see you do it, and they may copy. Your little ones, they're at advantage because they'll do anything most likely that you do, and you ask them to do it. But when they're teenagers, they're a little bit now more, they can discern. They may be more hardened, and because they're out in the open. But your little ones are not influenced from the outside yet, so they say, okay, Dad, I'll do what you want. I'll do this, and so on and so on. And everything that you do, they mimic what you do. It's easy, and hopefully by the time they're teenagers, this will be so ingrained in them that they can't be taken from it by their friends. So my brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for supporting my programs and so forth. And I really, really, really appreciate this. Jazakallah khairan. I really appreciate that. And this is something, the salah is very important to all of us. And I'm hoping that I did reach you and that I did answer some questions and whatnot. We all must learn, and we all must keep the Islam in our hearts and everything that we do, and we learn. All of us learn. I don't care who you are. Even our greatest scholars would tell you the same thing. They're always learning something. You cannot learn everything, and you cannot have knowledge of all things. You cannot. And so just be careful of that, and remember something, subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all things. And just be mindful of that too, brothers and sisters. Subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all things and whatnot. So rely on him, and your daily actions and so forth. Rely on Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Always confer with Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. You always ask for guidance from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and make this a habit as well, to ask for guidance and his permission, and don't overstep that, and be humble in your prayers, and Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will love you for that. Okay, my brothers and sisters, I will leave you here with the beautiful words of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.